So today we're very excited to have on our channel the CEO of ACT, Janet Godwin. Today we're going to be talking about the future of the ACT. I know the College Board has announced lots of changes to the SAT, but what's happening with the ACT? We're going to find out today. Janet, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, you betcha.
The first question that I have, which I think a lot of people have, is ACT also planning on going fully digital with its college admissions test?
Great question, Brooke, and thanks for having me on today. So the short answer to the question of are we going to go to 100% digital for our ACT National or Saturday testing is no. We are definitely exploring moving to a digital delivery option, but it will be an option. We plan to continue to provide a paper option because choice matters. We know that accessibility, equity can be an issue for different populations, different parts of the country, et cetera. And so we're committed to choice. So we will have a paper option, but we are looking into offering a digital version of the ACT as well. We've been offering digital delivery in our international market since 2017. We've been doing digital delivery of the ACT in our state and district or our school day testing for many, many years. 40% of our testing volume in state and district is already online. So we have lots of experience in this space, but we've also learned that especially domestically, an option with paper is going to be important for our stakeholders. And so we're committed to providing that option.
Okay, awesome. The second follow-up question to that is on adaptive testing, right? The SAT is looking at getting shorter, and is ACT looking into adaptive testing? And for those of you who might not be familiar, adaptive testing is essentially the idea that if a student has a section that they take and they do really well on that section, then they'll be given a section that is at their level, right? If they do really well, they're going to get a harder section. If they don't do as well, they're going to get an easier section. And in that way, you will be able to determine their score with fewer questions.
Absolutely. We're researching adaptive testing as we look at providing an online version of the ACT. We're exploring that. We're exploring whether that's the best approach for students. And so we haven't made that determination yet. And so there's definitely pros and cons, Brooke, for adaptive testing. But so we want to be very, very thoughtful. We do believe that there's some work we need to do to shorten the test in certain sections and to reduce that testing time. We know is an issue for students and test administrators. And whether we do that through adaptive testing or other means is still something that we're researching very carefully.
So I'm in California, which, as you know, as many people know, the University of California system has gone test blind. And so as a result, many school counselors, administrators looking at this in California have decided, I guess that means we don't have to host an ACT or an SAT, And in turn, what that means is that we have fewer places where students can take these exams. And I have students in turn that come to me and they say, hey, I wasn't able to get a test date. And I know that this isn't just a problem that's limited to California. In the summer, for example, the July ACT, SAT has an August SAT. These summer test dates also, we have students who, if they don't sign up the day that signups open or the week that signups open in many areas, they're not going to be able to get a seat at some of those exams. Can you tell us, what is ACT doing to ensure that if a student wants to take the ACT, he or she can take the ACT?
It's a really important question. And so we monitor our capacity extremely carefully. When we will open up sites and prepare to open up sites based on trend information in terms of testing volumes and things like that. And so then when we do open up registration, we monitor capacity. And if we see sites filling up quickly, we do try to create and expand capacity, whether it's through that existing center or bringing other centers there in that location up for testing. And so we monitor very carefully. We do our best to expand capacity where we see the need for it. We do that in a number of different ways. Additional sites. We've leveraged what we call pop-up sites too, to create, outside of a typical high school, for for example, or a college campus. It could be a convention center at a hotel. And we leveraged that technique pretty successfully, I would say, during the pandemic to be able to open up testing sites where schools were still closed. And so we're looking at ways to expand our use of pop-up centers where we've got, local demand that we're not able to meet through our traditional channel. I will say California has been hard just because of the test blind position of the college systems there. But the reality is so many students in California are applying to schools outside of the state. And so we know California is a priority, and we're continuing to find ways to create more capacity. Pop-ups are a prime example. And then July is a tough test. I like the July test date, but so many schools are not open in the summertime for external activities like hosting a test. July does tend to be a little bit harder for us to recruit sites for testing. Again, we're looking at seeing if we can leverage that pop-up capability to augment and create more capacity for July, because we've heard the same thing, that students like that, teachers like that, because it's a little less stress. Usually students aren't in school, they can have a little bit more time to prepare. And we're again trying to find ways to create capacity in July, and then more broadly where we see regionally and locally our capacity is not sufficient for what the testing demand is. So it's a good problem to have, but we also don't want to disappoint students and not have them have an opportunity to within a close area find a center that's going to work for them. So constant focus of ours to improve their Brooke.
Okay, that's great to hear. I know, yeah. I mean, I just hearing that, for me, it's like, I think sometimes we feel like the people who run these tests, that there's some giant disconnect or something. Like when you get students taking this test, it feels like there's this big machine, but it's so nice to know that on the other side, there is a human being hearing what people have to say and asking, how do we tackle this problem so that students do have access to this test? And I think that's one of the great things about standardized testing, is you want to be able to say that any kid can go in and take this test to prove themselves. In this test optional kind of environment, I think that's so important that is an option versus just having, some activity that you need this privilege or that advantage to even do. So anyhow, thank you. So next question, this is a little bit of a niche question, probably because I teach test prep and nerd out on all things ACT, but the VQI. So the VQI is a visual quantitative information question. It was announced by ACT some time ago that you might see VQI questions on an ACT exam. And what these are like data interpretation questions, right? There's a chart, there's a graph, there's something like that. And these would be in the reading section. To my knowledge, I haven't heard of very many students encountering these because, I run a YouTube channel and we have so many people. I've maybe heard of like one person saying, I think I saw one. What's the scoop on these? Should students be anticipating these in the near future? Is it just some testing sites?
No, great question. And you covered the type of question, the visual quantitative information. It's adding some visuals into the reading passage and asking students to incorporate that visual interpretation along with the reading. And so we did start incorporating VQI items in the reading section on a few forms in 2021. And we'll be continuing to include them on future ACT forms. And so, we need to make sure that we give some opportunities for educators to be able to help students prepare for these kinds of items. And so we'll be working on ways to do that as well. And so, we're still, we are excited about this particular kind of question. I think it's a little bit more sort of real world, if you will, in terms of the stimuli that learners, students are encountering, both in classes, but also when they get out of high school and are in a work environment or a college environment. And so we think it's an interesting, very relevant construct, and so we'll be continuing to integrate these into our forms going forward. And so again, our goal would be to provide information about how many of these questions, and provide materials to help students prepare for them, and understand sort of the nature and the construct of it. And so you can see and expect to hear more from ACT about that particular item type.
Fabulous. We'll have to do another video on those.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do it. We can do a deep dive on BQI.
Last question. College Board has been, dropping new questions, new tests. Is there anything else new with the ACT that we can look forward to?
Yeah, no, great question. So definitely the digital option. Again, we've got tons of experience, years of experience at scale, delivering tests in a computer-based format. And, stay tuned. We'll be making some moves in terms of starting some proof of concepts and pilots regarding digital version of the ACT, and then obviously exploring ways to shorten it a little bit, make it a more accessible for students. And so those are things you can expect from us. Another thing that we're really, really excited about is an app that we've launched. It's still in soft launch. We'll have a larger release in September, but we're calling it Encourage. And it's a post-secondary planning tool for students to use in high school. There'll be a version for educators as well. These are free tools to help students understand, what am I interested in? And based on my interests, what's a great major? What's a great school to go to? How do I search for scholarships that I'll be eligible for so I can make the college going experience affordable to me? It's like the number one question and concern that students have about a college going experience is, how am I going to pay for it? And so it is around that planning for, what am I going to do after high school? And then take the steps to be prepared academically, social emotionally, as well as financially to be ready for success. And so we're very excited about that. And eventually too, I think, part of our vision at ACT is we have always and will continue to support students who are pursuing that four-year college pathway that's core to what we do and will continue to be. But we also recognize there's a number of students in high school who do not choose that college-going path right after high school, and we want to be able to provide information and resources to students in high school exploring a credentialing path or an apprenticeship path to work. And so the vision for Encourage is not just to help students planning for that college path, that's core, and we'll always provide that, but we want to provide some information about alternative pathways for students, recognizing that, that transition from high school to what's next is a very, very big deal. And students have variable inputs to help them through that planning journey. And so we're committed at ACT to try to provide good, free, accessible information for students, parents, school counselors, other supports, tutors, to help provide information to guide students to a really important part of their life as they set themselves up for success after high school. So very excited about Encourage, something that I hear loud and clear that students and families do need this sort of support because in our world right now, it can be a murky process to figure out what to do after high school and what steps to take in high school to prepare for that. And I've heard it from school counselors could be using support. Students and families need supports. I've heard it from enrollment and admissions officers who are saying, especially after the pandemic, students are coming onto campus perhaps without all the preparation they would have normally had sort of pre-pandemic. And so again, information and resources to help students understand their goals, understand how to be best prepared for those goals, and to take the steps necessary to be successful on the path that they're choosing. And so I just shared that we're hearing this from so many of our stakeholders that there's a need, and we're trying to step into that area and provide some good free resources for all of our stakeholders.
Awesome. That's really great to hear. I'm so encouraged to hear these things coming from you, and also just the support of students and parents. I think the goal here overall, and like even the overall goal of the ACT, is this idea that you have a tool that's trying to help people and families and students to ensure that they have the skills, that they're prepared for college, and so that they know they have what they need in order to succeed. And it's one marker, it's not the only marker, but I'm really thankful for all of the work that you do to help provide this tool to students, and the ways that you're listening and that you try to take in their input. So thank you for that. And thank you too for coming on our channel today. I'm so excited for our audience to get to hear from you. And we're really just honored to have you here today. So thank you. If people want to keep in the know on ACT, are you on social, or where and how can they do that? I know you have your app.
Yep. And then we do have obviously a Facebook presence, a Twitter presence. We're moving into TikTok. We've got some information we're sharing there now, and we're constantly looking for ways to get our message out, and the value of participating in a program like the ACT. It's helpful for students to know, and to get confidence on their path, and so engaging in these steps, engaging with tutors, engaging with their educators, engaging with their family members, and getting information so that a student can have the confidence and the agency to make the choices that are going to be good for them. And so we're trying to get out there in social channels where we know students are.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was so great talking with you.
Thank you, Brooke. Appreciate the opportunity. Y'all take care.
Thanks so much again to Janet Godwin, CEO of ACT, for joining us today. If you'd like to connect with me, we've got free conversation going on Facebook in our group Competitive College Admissions, which you can check out at Facebook/group/competitive college admissions. We've also got a totally free mailing list, SupertutorTV.com/subscribe. And you can keep in the know on all our social channels. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, as well as right here on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, be sure that you do. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.